Good day everyone, this is Jessica Aranton and Rosa Eugenio. So we will be reporting the chapter 3 of Rizal's life and works, the early education in Calamba and Biñan, Laguna. Rizal had his early education in Calamba and Biñan, Laguna. It was a typical schooling that a son of an Ilustrado family received during his time, characterized by the 4 R's: the reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion. Instruction was rigid and strict. Knowledge was forced into the mind of the pupils by the means of tedious memory method aided by the teacher's whip. Despite the defects of the Spanish system of elementary education, Rizal was able to acquire the necessary instruction preparatory for the college work in Manila and abroad. It may be said that Rizal, who was born in physical weakling, rose to become an intellectual giant not because of, but rather in spite of, the outmoded and backward system of instruction obtaining by the Philippines during the last decades of Spanish regime. The hero's first teachers. The first teacher of Rizal was his mother, who was a remarkable woman of a good character and fine culture. Sa pangangalaga ng kanyang ina, ay natutunan niya sa edad na 3 ang alpabeto at pagdadasal ng My Mother. Mensahe niya doon ay My mother taught me how to read and say haltingly the humble prayers which I raise fervently to God. Doña Chodora, as a tutor, he was patient, conscientious, and understanding. It was she who discovered that her son has a talent for poetry. Ayon sa mga historians, si Doña Chodora, ang kanyang ina, ang unang humikayat sa kanyang magsulat ng mga tula upang mahasa siya sa alpabeto at mahasa rin ang kaisipan sa pag-iisip at pagpapalawak ng kadunungan. As Dr. Jose Rizal grew older, his parents employed private tutors to give him lessons at home. The first was Maestro Celestino and the second was Lucas Padua of Rizal's father. Later on, an old man named Leon Monroy, a former classmate of Rizal's father, became the boy's tutor. The old teacher lived in the Rizal's home and instructed Jose in Spanish and Latin. Unfortunately, he did not live long. He died 5 months later. After Monroy's death, the hero's parents decided to send their gifted son to a private school in Biñan. Jose Rizal goes to Biñan. On one Sunday afternoon in June 1869, Jose, after kissing the hands of his parents and a tearful parting from his sister, left Calamba for Biñan. He was accompanied by Pasiano, who acted as his second father. The two brothers rode in Caromata, reaching their destination after 1.5 hours drive. They proceeded to their aunt's house, where Jose was to lodge. It was almost night when they arrived, and the moon was about to rise. Sa gabing iyon ay hindi nakapagsaya si Jose, sa kadahilanang namimiss niya ang kanyang pamilya sa Calamba. Marahil hindi kasing yaman ng Biñan ng Calamba, ngunit sa lugar na iyon siya unang matutong magmahal at matuto rin sa maraming bagay. The first day of Jose Rizal in Biñan School. The next morning, Monday, Pasiano brought his younger brother to school of Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz. The school was in the house of the teacher, which was a small nipahat about 30 meters from the home of Jose Rizal's aunt. Matapos na ipakilala ni Pasiano si Jose Rizal sa kanyang maestro at bumalik na rin sa Calamba, si Jose ay pinaupo na sa kanyang upuan. So, by that time, nag-ask yung teacher niya. Sabi niya, "Do you know Spanish?" So, sumagot si Jose Rizal. He said, a little bit, sir." So, tinanong ulit siya. Sabi, "Do you know Latin?" So, sumagot ulit si Jose Rizal. Sabi niya, "A little bit, sir." Tinawanan siya ng mga classmate niya, especially yung mga anak ng teacher, especially si Pedro. So, marahil dahil galing siya sa Calamba, ay inaakala nilang hindi kasing sibilisado ng lugar na iyon kumpara sa lugar ng Biñan. So, dinescribe niya yung teacher niya from Biñan, si Justiniano Cruz. Sabi niya, ito daw ay matangkad, mapayat, mahaba ang leeg at patangos ang ilong na may matikas na pangangatawan. So, mahilig daw siyang magsuot ng barong na binuburda pa ng mga kababaihan galing sa Batangas. Ang sabi niya pa, he knew by the heart the grammars by Nebrija and Gainza add to this severity that in my judgment was exaggerated, and you have a picture, perhaps vague, that I have made of him, but I remember only this. In succeeding days of his life in Biñan School, madami daw naghamon sa kanya ng away. According to the historians, hindi talaga siya paalaway but rather hindi lang talaga siya umaatras sa hamon. The best student in school. In academic studies, Jose Rizal beat Biñan boys. He surpassed them all in Spanish, Latin, and other subjects. Some of his older classmates were jealous of his intellectual superiority. They wickedly squealed to the teacher whenever Jose had a fight outside the school, and even told lies to discredit him before the teacher's eyes. Consequently, the teacher had to punish Jose. Thus, Rizal said that in spite of the reputation I had being a good boy, the day was unusual when I was not laid out on a bench and given 5 or 6 blows. This is the daily life of Jose Rizal in Biñan, Laguna. So for the first one, here's Mass at 4 a.m. or studies the classes before going to Mass. The second one, he goes to Orchard to look for Mabalo to eat breakfast. And then at 10 a.m., he goes to class. And then lunch break. At 2 p.m., he goes back to school. And at 5 p.m. for dismissal. Prays with cousins, studies a lesson, then draw a little praise. And then draw a little, and then pray again. Sometimes he plays in the street if the moon is bright, and then sleep.
End of Biñan's schooling. Before the Christmas season in 1870, Jose received a letter from his sister, Saturnina, informing him of the arrival of the steamer Talim, which would take him from Biñan to Calamba. Tila siya ay nalungkot sa kanyang nabasa na hindi na muli siyang makakabalik sa Biñan, kaya siya ay nagdasal sa simbahan at nagpaalam sa kanyang mga gurot at kapwa-eskwela. Umalis siya ng Biñan, sakay ang Talim, kung saan ito ang kanyang unang pagsakay. On the night of January 20, 1872, about 200 Filipino soldiers and workmen of the Cavite Arsenal under the leadership of La Madrid Filipino sergeant rose in violent mutiny because of the abolition of their usual privileges, including exemptions from tribute and polo, or forced labor. Lipas ng 2 araw, ang Cavite Mutiny ay natakip ng troop reinforcements from Manila na pinangungunahan ng mga fathers Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. Ay sinusuportahan ni Jose Maria Basa, Attorneys Joaquin Pardo de Tavera, and Antonio Maria Regidor, at iba pa. That magnified the failed mutiny into a revolt for Philippine independence. From Gombursa, or what they called Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, despite the archbishop's plea for clemency because of their innocence, sila ay na-executed at February 17, 1872. Pasiano, enraged by the execution of Burgos, his beloved friend, teacher, and housemate, quit his studies at the College of San Jose and returned to Calamba, where he told the heroic story of Burgos to his younger brother Jose, who was then nearly 11 years old. The martyrdom of Gombursa in 1872, talagang in-inspire si Rizal na labanan ang mga masasamang Spanish people. 17 years later, in his letter written in Paris, April 18, 1889, na binigay niya kay Mariano Ponce, sinabi niya dito sa letter, without 1872, instead of writing the Noli Me Tangere, would have been written the opposite. And also, he said, I swore to devote myself to avenge one day so many victims, and with this idea in mind, I have been studying, and this can be read in all my works and writings. And later, in 1891,
ay naglimbag ulit siya ng panibagong libro na katuloy noong Noli Me Tangere, which is the El Filibusterismo na dinedicate niya mismo sa mga Gomburza.
justice to Hero's mother. Before June of 1872, tragedy struck the Rizal family. Doña Teodora was suddenly arrested on a malicious charge that she and her brother, Jose Alberto, tried to poison the latter's perfidious wife. Si Jose Alberto, isang mayamang Biñan ilustrado na nanggaling sa isang business trip in Europe. During his absence, ang kanyang asawa at ang kanyang anak ay naiwan sa bahay. Sa kanyang pagbabalik, nakita niya ang kanyang asawa na may kinakasamang ibang lalaki. Later on, pinatawad niya ang kanyang asawa. Subalit, pagkalipas ng ilang mga araw, ang kanyang asawa ay nakaisip ng isang bagay na hindi dapat gawin. Ang asawa ni Jose Alberto, pinaratangan si Doña Teodora kasama ng kanyang asawa that they try to poison her. Lieutenant ang nagka-advantage. Naarestuhin si Doña Teodora because at one time Don Francisco Rizal's father refused to give him fodder for his horse, taking the opportunity to avenge himself. Tapos maaresto si Doña Teodora, the sadistic Spanish lieutenant forced her na maglakad mula Calamba to Santa Cruz, na ang layo ay 50 kilometers. Ay nalagay sa provincial prison where siya ay nagtagal for 2 years and a half until the Manila Royal Audiencia Supreme Court acquitted her of the alleged crime. Rizal always said to his student, "Our mother was unjustly snatched away from us." And by whom? By some men who had been our friends and as honored guests. Sinasabi niya din, "My mother was defended by Mrs. Francisco de Marchida and Manuel Marzal." Teodoras finally succeeded to be acquitted and vindicated in the eyes of her judges, accusers, and even her enemies. But after how long? After 2.5 years.
So this is our report for chapter 3. That would be all. Thank you.